My love of filmmaking and creative media practice came from when I was around 11 or 12. My mum's friend in America sent over a lovely present, which was a Lego set containing a little stop motion camera. And the quality of this camera was absolutely shocking. I mean, as you can see. However, I was besotted with this little thing. I loved it, and I made films all the time. It was just my favourite way to express myself creatively and visually. From this, which I would consider quite an early start into filmmaking, just kept going and going as I kind of went through my teenage years and adolescence. And I'm so glad that I've got a visual record of everything that I've kind of made, because I've kept all of it. And then there's things I've made when I was 14, like little videos, and 15 when I started making videos with my mum's boyfriend at the time, just me torturing him and making a complete arse out of him. And then there was stuff when I was 16 when I started making short films, like the first 2 minutes of a zombie film, and then when I was 17 I made my second ever music video. I lost the first one and I was so disappointed. No, this one was the most recent thing before I started uni, and that's when things started to change. When I went to uni, my films actually started getting of a better standard. I don't know, it's something that has ceased to be fun throughout the entire time I've been doing it, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was fun. The Bedroom Maestro project not only allowed me to explore new processes of planning, production and post-production, but also furthered my development of the necessary skills needed to execute a diversity of requirements that this documentary demanded. Although I'm fairly familiar with what makes the foundation for an engaging story, the planning of how to execute such a story through the means of a documentary was something I'd not come across before. Having already a good handful of past video projects was a comfortable start for me, as I was already aware of the technical problems that may occur with a fairly advanced understanding of filming and editing. However, the only real experience I'd had with a documentary film was for reflection videos at A-level, in which I would sit down classmates and peers and interview them about the coursework I'd produced. Chris was perfect, as his dilemma lent itself quite nicely to the premise of a trouble to overcome, and I knew if I could get him to agree to the filming of this first live performance, I would have my story. Mainly we discussed what he was prepared to give away about himself, which was initially very little. But once production was underway, he produced a lot of quotable and intriguing personal anecdotes, which I knew at the time were fantastic for building a certain artificial rapport and tenor with his audience. Aside from maintaining a close eye on Chris and his attitude to the film, I had to worry about booking and collecting the necessary equipment to shoot on the filming dates I'd set up. So organisation and precision planning were an essential aspect that I'd not had to face to such a demanding degree before. Previous projects, knowing the duration of the film piece would only be roughly 3 minutes, I would only have to rely on getting hold of a camera and some friends willing to do a bit of acting. I booked 2 Sony Z1 cameras, 2 Manfrotto tripods, 2 shotgun overhead mics, and 2 boom poles. One thing I forgot to do was book someone else to help me during the collection process, as carrying everything to the car was incredibly strenuous. Likewise in getting permissions to film in the pub. So organising it so that I had a second cameraman on B-cam and a boom mic operator to assist him would allow me to concentrate on my own shots of the live performance. Also, the shutter control the Z1 allows its user to have lent itself nicely to the moody lighting of the venue, considering the stage area was very dark aside from the hard lighting facing Chris from the front. Created some lovely artificial shadows across his face and down the neck of his guitar. Unfortunately, the shutter settings on B-cam were vastly higher than they were on A-cam, letting in less light, so the exposure was a lot harsher, making the image lose some of its clarity. When filming the shots in Chris's bedroom, I took a different approach than I did in filming the pub shots. For a start, I used my sister's Canon EOS 600D DSLR camera to film with. I knew the cutaway shots would have to look crisp and in fairly high contrast, so the Sigma 40 120mm ultra-wide lens was a good recommendation from my sister for these shots. Of course, I had to set the film settings to 25 frames per second and the definition to 720p to match the prior footage in the Red Lion. I'd used DSLR cameras to film previous projects, but none had the resolution and quality control over the shots that I was able to have in the Bedroom Maestro project. I made the conscious decision to not bring a tripod so as to make the appeal of these shots based on the gritty realism of what's being shown. This worked to an extent, in that the shots resembled that of documentaries filmed entirely by a handycam. However, it made the extreme close-up somewhat shaky. I would definitely bring a tripod next time, regardless of whether or not I have the intention to use it. When all the material had been uploaded to Adobe Premiere Pro CS6, post then begun. I'm very aware of the workings of Premiere, having used it through GCSE level productions to the present ones. With every production comes a higher understanding of the software and new methods and techniques of editing. This allowed me to have an initial scan over the footage and trim the unnecessary fat from the take, keeping only the relevant part of the clip. Before this, I would simply just drag and drop the full clips into the timeline and edit from there, as I only had a small number of clips to start with. The aim was to construct this piece in a chronologically linear fashion. However, the decision was made after the director's cut was finished to portray the tale in a juxtaposed fashion. This is common practice in contemporary media productions, as it splits the story and engages the reader in the sense that they've witnessed the penultimate scene at the start, giving them the desire to continue watching so as to be satisfied with the conclusion, anticipating whether the outcome will be positive or negative. This pursuit of media studies, creative media practice, is something that so far has yet to disappoint, so I'm very keen to see what the second year of university has in store for me.
Funny cats.